Do you believe that Asif Zardari is involved in the killing of your father?
Yes.
Do you believe that Benazir Bhutto has a role to play?
Yes, unfortunately.
I'm going to ask you to repeat that. You actually believe that your Bhua, your father's elder sister, is responsible in some way for the murder of her brother?
She presided over a state of lawlessness. My father was one of thousands killed under her second government. So certainly she bears a moral responsibility. And after his murder, my aunt played a very strong role in the cover-up. We were forbidden from filing an FIR. All the witnesses were arrested. They had no access to lawyers, to their families. In fact, they were kept in jail till her government fell.
So both before, then immediately after what happened, and then in the cover-up, at all three stages you believe there are serious question marks about her behavior?
Well, certainly, Masood Sharif, who at that time was the head of the intelligence bureau that reported to the office of the Prime Minister, who was at the scene of the crime that night, several years later was inducted into the Central Committee of Benazir's party. Now, to induct a man who has been accused publicly of your brother's murder sends a certain signal, I think.
Years later, right at the end of your book, you quote something she said in an interview just before Benazir died. She actually said that your father was responsible for his own death.
Yes. She remained committed to the police line. And just before her own murder, she tried to insinuate on television that not only did Murtaza have himself killed, that he had a sort of suicidal wish, but that his own guards killed him. She said that he was shot from the back, which he most certainly was not, and that his body bore tales of his death. And it certainly does. It just has nothing to do with the claims Benazir was making.
Now, your book also sketches out the growing differences leading to the rift between your father Murtaza and his sister Benazir. And in a sense, although the problems perhaps began earlier, they began to crystallize after the death of General Zia in 1988, when your father wanted to return to Pakistan. Your grandmother, Nusrat Bhutto, was in favor of it, but Benazir was bitterly opposed. Why was she opposed to her brother's return?
Well, at that time, 1 year after their brother Shahnawaz's murder in 1986, Benazir had begun to negotiate with the military establishment in Pakistan to take power. And she was preparing, one would assume, to be General Zia's prime minister, who was still alive at the time. And the differences really started then. My father couldn't understand how she was willing to negotiate with the very establishment that had killed their father, that they believed had their brother killed, all for the sake of power. She was willing to accept the IMF dictates. She was willing to let the army control foreign policy.
But then when Zia died, and that chapter in a sense was over, why then did she stop your father from returning?
Well, I think the compromises remained. I mean, she was prime minister to Zia's number 2, who then assumed the office of president after Zia-ul-Haq was killed. She, one of the men she appointed as governor of Sindh, had signed her father's death warrant.
Do you also suspect that she saw your father as a political challenge? She didn't want to share power with him. She wanted to be Bhutto's heir. She didn't want Bhutto's son to come back and enjoy the limelight or power or the legacy with her.
Well, certainly, and I think she very much did not want another Bhutto to say, why are these compromises being made on the blood of our father?
So neither did she want to share power, nor did she want her brother to question what she was doing.
Absolutely.